Hey folks, Scott here coming to you with a movie review. And it's of the 1989 film that I think is underrated that has John Candy, and it's called Who's Harry Crumb? Got this on Blu-ray. Got it several days ago. Film didn't do very much at the box office, made like $10.9 million. Came out early February 3rd specifically. So technically next week it'll be 30 years old, but fuck it, might as well, get on with it. So I always thought this was an underrated John Candy flick. Sure, the film didn't do that great, but it shouldn't perturb you from giving it a watch. Of course, he would later rebound later in '89 with Uncle Buck, which is also another classic. I need to get that at some point. And Candy was always part of my childhood growing up. He's always a funny guy, always seemed like a genuine, kind human being. And he's been in films like Splash. He was in another film with Tom Hanks that I can't think of at the top of my head. Spaceballs, of course. What else? No. He had a cameo in Home Alone. He was in Cool Runnings. He was in a couple movies in '91, like Delirious, which I think is a fun little flick, and I remember liking Only the Lonely as well. And I haven't seen the last film, like Canadian Bacon, which I heard sucked, so anywho. But yeah, this is definitely not one of those films. It's definitely a underrated, fun little film. Doesn't have a whole lot of LOL moments, but there's some nice levity and subtle moments, and I'll get to that. And basically the plot revolves around him playing this bumbling idiot detective, and he's recruited by Elliot Drayson, who is actually the president of the detective agency called Crumb, and he's being recruited by P.J. Downing, whose daughter was kidnapped, as seen in the beginning of the film, called Jennifer Downing. The actress's name is Renee Coleman. I don't know what else she's been in, but anyways. So basically, Harry Crumb gets dragged into this because we would later find out the reason being is that Elliot Drayson is actually the one that set this whole kidnapping up, and it's basically because, of course, he wants to get rich, and he wants to get at P.J. Downing's wife, Helen, I think, yeah, Helen Downing. Apparently, they were involved in the past somehow. I guess he always had the hots for her, and of course, we all know that Helen Downing's up to no good, even though despite being married to PJ, she's your typical gold-digging slut, because she also sleeps around with this Vince Barnes tennis guy. I guess he's an amateur tennis player. He's played by Tim Thomerson, who is probably best known for being in the transfer films as Jack Death. And he does fine in the role. I think all the actors do. All the actors, like I said, they do fine in their roles. That's pretty much what I can say. So anyway, along the way, when Crumb is investigating, he later gets aided by P.J. Downing's younger daughter, Nikki, who's played by Shawnee Smith, who was later previously in the The Blob remake, which is a really underrated remake. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And speaking of P.J. Downing, he's actually played by Barry Coburn, who's been in a lot of films like War Games. I swear he was in this film that I saw recently, and I can't even remember it now. It may come back to me, but he's been in other films like Solo. Oh yeah, Critters 2. He's in that film as well. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Anywho, and a lot of a lot of fun subtle moments happen in this film. Like whenever he first meets up with PJ, and he's trying to describe the bond between man and fish. He sticks his hand in the fish tank, and the fish bites on his finger, and he tries his best to hide it. He actually ends up throwing it on like this picture, which actually matches up with the fish. And when he's telling them how he must, about the business he's in, he like puts his hand down on one of the fish fly hooks, and he's just trying to do his best by not wincing, but he's like, oh. And then another funny moment whenever, in the same scene, same place, he's throwing darts at the dartboard, and it hits pretty close, and then he actually gets one in the middle, and it hits dead on, then it falls down into this glass and messes up his model ship. And he's like Good day to you, sir. Just a fun moment right there. But anyways, as I was saying, and when Nicky is aiding Harry in his attempts to find out more about the kidnappers, according to Harry, since he's a bumbling idiot, he thinks it's Helen Downing and Vince Barnes are the kidnappers. And when they're seen through the binoculars, they make a little. Annie Potts' character, Helen Downing, makes a little reference. I suspect he has a dick, but he might need a robot to find it. And then, of course, he mentions something about, they talk about my prowess as a private dick, and then they're on top of a roof, and he actually ends up slipping and sliding down on this glass door. And he thinks he's got a firm grip, but then the glass door kind of flips up and flips up in the opposite, and he ends up on top of a fan, and it's in some kind of like upscale, high-class, rich restaurant type of deal. And this kid sees him on the fan just spinning around slowly. And the little spoiled little rich brat decides he's going to have a little fun. And he starts to see the Lon Johns, the little fake Lon Johns, spinning the wheel. And then the kid decides to make an adjustment on the wheel, on the one. I don't know what to call it, but anyways. He decides to mess with it, like it goes from slow to fast. He starts spinning a little faster. Then when he gets to the final standing, he's like, and then he's like spinning really, and then Harry's like spinning really, really fast. And when he's already on the ground, he's just like stepping like this, and he's trying to keep his composure, walking very, just very oddly. And then he ends up pulling a guy's wig off, a toupee off, and then eventually, since it's on the marina, he ends up in the water. And then, yeah, just the fact that, Nicky is a lot more smarter, and she helps, Harry along find the clues a little more. It was another funny scene that I remember. I'm trying to remember if it's all in order. He plays. It probably wouldn't get made like this today, but it wouldn't be politically correct. But he goes in. This is before. I'll get to that one in a moment. But the one scene where he's trying to find it before Nicky aids him, he actually goes up undercover, some kind of like hairdresser from Budapest, and he's wearing some fake chest hair. And when he's trying to get the understanding of how the guy sneaked up on the masseuse or the person that applies the mud or whatever. There's like a lady there already covered up in mud and having the cucumbers. When he's trying to understand that, unfortunately his fake chest hair falls like on her pelvic region, and then he has to quickly grab it, and he ends up putting it back on his face instead. And this lady's like, "That's funny, you look so different." And he's like, "Oh, maybe your eyes are playing tricks on you or something." But yeah, that was funny as hell. And they even play a little tic-tac-toe. Being the idiot he is, he doesn't, cross out the O's. He thinks he cleverly can, Anyways, she ends up winning, so... Yeah, I thought that was funny. But yeah, getting to that... Nose is itching. Getting to that one scene where he decides to track down his apartment. Jeez, my nose is really fucking itching. But anyways, when he gets to the scene... Or when he gets to Vince Barnes' apartment, he goes under the name of, of Vijay from Bombay Air Conditioning. When the going gets hot, the hot get air conditioned. He's like, "Oh, it's a cute list." He makes up with this, I guess the guy, he's the front desk manager, and he tells him, "Beat it." And then Vijay, and then of course Carrie replies, "Perhaps later." I didn't know if that was a masturbation joke, but I thought that was like a subtle little laugh right there and whatnot. And of course he ends up, having to go inside the vent to try to take photos from the Vince Barnes apartment, and of course, being the fat guy he is, it messes up the air conditioning. And of course, Vince Barnes is not there; it's Elliot Drayson instead. He doesn't see the photos, and then when Elliot puts the vent on exhaust, he gets sucked out of there, and all his little papers and coins get sucked out, and the guy at the front desk, thinking that he gets a coin. He's like, oh, he's thinking it's a lucky day, and he starts hearing this huge little rumble. He's like, oh, jackpot! Instead, Harry knocks him out instead, and it's just funny. And then, eventually, Elliot, starts to, get really impatient because he really wants Helen, even though probably deep down she really, she just wants his money because, she's a gold-digging person. But anyways, he decides he wants to make the money handed to him by Friday. And then, of course, Helen intercepts the letter and tries to push it back to Monday. But still, regardless, Elliot makes sure that he's going to get the money on Friday either way. So eventually, when when Harry decides he's going to give him the money, he actually dresses up as a jockey. And unfortunately, the phone booths are like really small, like it's made for like shorter guys like me, like 5'4", 5'6". I'm not 5'4", I'm just barely 5'6". But anyways, he tries to squeeze in, and then Elliot tries to disguise his voice, and then sensing that Harry doesn't understand him, he's like, Elliot, listen, just give him the money. He eventually, decides to take the money from Crumb and just leave him there since he's stuck there, and he tries to, get under a different disguise and actually call up Helen and reveal to her that he's the one that set the whole thing up. She eventually does come, but apparently Vince Barnes isn't as dumb as he looks, so he's apparently been listening on the conversation, and he actually comes by at gunpoint, takes the money away, and of course Helen runs off with him, and they actually tie him up somewhere in some kind of maintenance chamber, some kind of maintenance room. Tie him up, gag him, have him on a chair, and eventually Harry and Nicky eventually get there, and there's a little funny moment whenever he's going through the airport security, and the detector detects metal, but he goes there several times, and he's like, oh shit, it was actually a metal plate in my head that I had since the scooter accident, which I thought was funny. But yeah, eventually he's able to get on some kind of airport escalator that Nicky drives. It's actually attached to a truck, and Nicky drives it. And so, yeah, he eventually is able to somehow save the day, because apparently his black belt in Aikido, and he's actually able to, he tries to do this weird little move, but instead he just kicks off his boots, and it hits Vince Barnes' handgun, and it hits him in the head, and eventually they both get taken away. And speaking of the black Aikido thing, there was actually a funny little scene I forgot to mention. Whenever he's at Elliot's office, he does a little backflip, and Elliot Drayson is kind of protective of all the stuff he collects. Like, he collects like fossilized stuff, like pterodactyl eggs and some skeletons. And he does a little backflip, the egg starts rolling, but luckily Elliot catches it. And then, of course, Harry goes, touchdown! And there's actually another funny scene that I forgot to mention, that the brake scene where he's riding his bicycle, and come on, Elliot. Look, something about, I was wondering what this brake does, and he pushes it, and eventually the bicycle goes like so fucking fast, like at light speed, and he has to grab onto something while the bicycle ends up back in, this happened in Harry's office, it ends up back in Drayson's office, it hits all his fossilized collectibles, and when it hits that, it hits a chair, which in turn rolls over, hits where the pterodactyl egg is, and it the protective glass that is protecting it breaks, and eventually the fossilized egg also breaks too. He's like, you know what, Elliot? That was a break. Go figure. Anyways, and then towards the end, when Elliot is caught, Harry, of course, has no idea he was really the one that set the whole thing up. He's like, you really didn't think I knew or could handle the case, and didn't think I could track him down. And he's like, what do you think of that? And he rips the tape off, and of course Drayson at his breaking point says, you know what? I confess, I did it. I don't know how you survived with that wit of yours, and then I would rather spend the rest of my life in jail rather than hear one idiotic word. And Harry's like, just like taken back, like, like at all this unexpected. Then he's like, and he says, "Book him." So eventually, at the end, you know, both daughters are saved and gets a huge check, and has a really good friendly connection now with PJ, and he ends up being the president of Crumb and Crumb. And yeah, and apparently he gets an unexpected call. Apparently he's supposed to. He gets another assignment, for, you know, another case. This time, a murder committed in a gay bar. He ends up dressing in this this little pink, violet-looking dress or something. Sorry, I just kind of spit all over there. But anyways, and I think one of the assistants that we saw earlier, Georgina, is like wishing him good luck, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm really gonna need it," and it ends there. So yeah, I think it's a really fun little underrated comedy. The cons for this, maybe it could have been maybe a little funnier, but maybe they could have explained why that Elliot was so obsessed with Helen Downing. I mean, we did see in a photograph that in the past that he was a photographer and she was something, but they really don't have that great of connection. So maybe that's the flaw, but apparently it's a lot more than we realize. So I don't know. I can't really think of much flaws to this, other than maybe it could have been a little funnier. And I guess the rival detective, I forget what her name is, Detective Casey, Valerie Bromfield. I know I saw in another film that John Candy, I just now remembered, it was Nothing But Trouble. That wasn't really a bad of a film, although it's a bit weird, but I'll do that when I review that film. So, but yeah, pros, all the actors do a fine job. The comedy, when it's there, when we see it, whenever it's there, whether it's in subtle moments or when there's moments of levity, it's there. It definitely works. It's okay. Now that I think about it, maybe the one other flaw is maybe I feel like the humor is short-lived at times, but it's there. It gives you a definite chuckle for sure. But anyways, oh yeah, I forgot the fun part that was funnier. Apparently, when he mistakes this one guy for Elliot Drayson, this guy's apparently thinking that Harry's intelligent. He starts speaking in Japanese, and first he goes, "Aha," and we see it in subtitles. He repeats something in Japanese, and he goes, Sure. I thought that was funny. But anyways, overall, I don't have a huge problem with it. If you can get this Blu-ray for around $6 or so, go for it. It was definitely well worth the price for me. For the Blu-ray. I guess maybe the problem is there is the flaw. This Blu-ray could have used a hell of a lot more extras. I would have liked to seen some interviews with the people that are still alive. I know that Annie Potts is still alive. Jeffrey Jones is still probably alive, but he's too busy probably jerking off to whatever fucking photos. Yeah, apparently he was involved in some kind of child pornography scam or something like that, so that's very fucking sad for him. Barry Coburn, I know, is no longer with us, and neither is John Candy. I think the director is still alive, I think, but I guess nobody can find him, so. But yeah, overall, it's a solid, great comedy, and well worth the price. And, I don't know what else I can say. It's a fun film. It's John Candy. What more could I say? Well worth it, if you ask me. But yep, that should do it for me. There's going to be some other films I might be reviewing, like I might be doing a review of Fly 2, but before I get to that, I'm going to review the remake of The Fly, because it's a classic, and I figured I might as well review that. And there's going to be other films that I'm thinking of, like Leviathan, the Ghostbusters films, Roadhouse. I'll definitely review that. The quintessential guys movie right there, so yeah. But anywho, I'm going to end it right here. Hopefully you like this video, and hopefully you'll like it. And for all you noob subscribers, you know, click that subscribe button, and there'll be some more content coming out. So there you go. I will see you later in another video, folks. Bye-bye.